Hi, this is Mandi Ellefson, host of the Hands Off CEO podcast. Today on the show, we have Jayne McQuillan. I'm so excited to have Jayne on the show here. Jayne has gone through our irresistible offer process, and she has also just done absolutely amazing things with her exit advising company. And so she's a seasoned advisor, has 2 decades of experience in financial management, business consulting, and also helps companies be able to exit, increase the value of their company, and really position them to be able to transition and have long-term success and increase the multiple of their company. Her company is Journey Consult, so you can find them at journeyconsult.com. And Jayne, I am so excited to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mandi. Glad to be here.
All right, did I miss anything in the introduction here about how you work together with your clients for profitable exits?
Yeah, no, we really engage with our clients early on in their process as they're even starting to think about it. So we'll work with clients that are looking to exit in 3, 5, 10 years so that they can, as we put it, not only maximize their value, but enjoy their business while they're in it and take the fruits of their labor and not have to wait for an exit to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's a couple different angles we could take this interview. One thing is like, I'd love to pick your brain on your perspective on how to be able to generate a more profitable exit and to be able to enjoy the company as you grow. I mean, this is the Hands Off CEO podcast after all.
Yeah.
You know a thing or two about that, but also to talk about how you've transitioned and you've changed your business in some really considerable ways. And so I want to just share with, like, I know that there was a point where you came to us and you said, hey, you know what? I'm ready to scale my company. I want to take things to the next level. What were some of the things that were making you think about wanting to make a change?
Yeah, it was, and we had transitioned our business over time. And part of what we were doing for a period of time was a lot of also, I'll call it interim financial work, CFO type work for clients. And so my background, obviously being financial, was around this bill for time, right? Bill for projects, bill for hours. And I was just getting so burnt out on that model because the only way I could scale was to add people because I can't create more hours in my day. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And I was getting very frustrated in terms of that. And honestly, I don't even remember exactly, Mandi, how I heard about you. I think you might have been even presenting on some educational webinar and I happened to be listening and I'm like, I got to dig more into this because I do this, to your point, in helping other businesses, but I don't primarily work with service industries. I work, with manufacturing companies, distributors, et cetera. And so it's just very different to scale a service business. And I know a lot, but I don't know everything. And I needed some help to do it. So that was really a big thing for me as I wanted to scale. And I couldn't get over this hurdle of the only way I could do it was adding people.
Got it. So And before, a big thing was your pricing model. You were sharing before about like how has your pricing model changed?
Exponentially. So again, back to we were billing on project or hours, and now we bill totally on value. So in working with Hands Off CEO, we created our irresistible offer, and it was all based on value we were providing, not hours we were spending. And that was a huge barrier mentally for me to get over because now I had to sell. And even from a client perspective, they're like, well, how much time are you spending on this? Or how much time are you spending on that? And it really wasn't the issue. And so one of the biggest hurdles one of the biggest things that helped us get over that hurdle was the case studies. Because we've been doing this for a long time. And one of the things, not only in creating the irresistible offer, but really going back and saying, we've created these amazing results for our clients and we weren't doing anything with that to say, hey, we've got the actual results. We know that when you invest in us, you're going to get multiples of what you've invested in return in terms of growing that business. But it was a really hard barrier to overcome and really be confident in saying, hey, we're worth X, right? We're not worth an hourly rate. And being, a financial analytical person, I understand the math that everybody else is working going, what do you mean you're going to charge us this? Well, you're only working X amount of hours. And so it was really hard. But creating, first of all, the irresistible offer in that one page was a huge just communication model. And I think the other thing that really helped in terms of being able to do that was speaking in our clients' language. I think that was another huge learning that allowed me confidence in terms of their pain points. So it wasn't selling what we did. It was solving their problems and how they describe the problems. And I think that is probably one of the bigger turning points for us in terms of talking their language. And that has really changed our ability to not only ask for what we're worth, but to demonstrate the fact that we've got proven results of not only have we done this multiple times, but you can expect those same results. And we are only attracting those clients that are willing to make that investment versus those clients that are wanting to pay us hourly.
Right. Right. Well, and it takes something. I know you guys, I mean, how much you've increased your fees?
2 to 3 times, maybe more.
Yeah. So, and then that's gone from like the smaller projects, but then also the long, like what are the actual length of the engagements too?
Yeah. So when we engage, part of our offering indicates that it's a 2 to 3 year process. So we engage our clients now on an annual basis with the understanding that the results won't be achieved in 1 year. So the expectation is set that it's at least a 2, possibly a longer engagement. So even though we were having longer term engagements with our clients before, they were obviously smaller dollar amounts. Now we're having longer engagements, and the lifetime value of that client, has gone up probably tenfold from where we started. And that's just been obviously a game changer for us as a business, and our ability to not only scale, but also in terms of those engagements, we don't have to have as many clients. So even I know one of the things that we were looking at initially was, at the price that we were charging for clients, well, we needed to continue to add clients at that lower average. Well, now we need fewer clients so we can get higher results, higher value for those clients that we are working with, which also reinforces our fee structure without burning us out by needing to have 2 or 3 times as many clients as we do today.
I love it. So I remember when you're going through this process, there were some moments where you're banging your head against the wall a little bit, right? It was kind of sticky, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And I think part of it is business, and I deal with it too with our clients, obviously doing similar things just in a different way, is, that aspect of, but we're different. We're different. We can't do what you're asking. And I think that hurdle was a big part of it. But I think the biggest thing in going through that was, and it was very strenuous. And our office manager internally here, she you are strained over coming up with your, so I mean, the hours I spend and just, to your point, banging my head against the wall, but that focus and that clarity, and the effort to go through that, although challenging, really, really forced us as an organization and forced me to really look at what is it we're delivering, being clear on that and being very focused. I think it's easy for a lot of business owners, you get in and you all things to all people, right? And I think that focus is really hard because it's also scary to say, I'm this. And to also be comfortable that, boy, is there a market for just this to the level I want to grow the business? And the answer to that's yes, but that's not an easy answer to get to when you start this process, and knowing that as you're growing your business, you've been able to grow it because you've been able to do a lot of different things, but not necessarily in a scalable way.
Right. So then going and focusing down, it became more scalable. You were able to increase your price point, and you were realizing that, hey, or I guess you had the fear that, if we do this, we could lose all this business.
Yeah, for sure. And,
yeah.
It was going to use that fear of asking what we're worth, right? Going, if we ask for that, what are these clients going to say? Absolutely not. We're not engaging. Or even our existing clients, as we're transitioning them, to say, yeah, you're no longer fit for what I want to do. And also narrowing, as we were seeing it, narrowing the market.
Right. Well, so then now going down that, how did that impact the numbers as far as you actually being able to grow?
Yeah, for sure. So we finished this process mid-year in 2023. In our first 6 months, we grew our revenue 47%, which was amazing, honestly, in terms of that. But, the first sale, I think I finished this process in June, and in July, I did my first kind of offering to a client, and we closed our first deal from the get-go, which was obviously a confidence booster and rewarding. And then since then, in 2024, we've grown another 46%. But for me, the top line growth is great, but we've grown our bottom line from generating a net income of 15% or just over 15% to 39% this year. So we more than doubled our bottom line net income on growth. And this next year in 2025, because we've got these long-term agreements, we're entering into year-long contracts. So we've got over 50% of our revenue for next year under contract. And we've got opportunities in the funnel for another 20% to close by the end of this month, actually. And we're anticipating next year's bottom line profit to go from 39 to 45. So all of those are not what I would have ever expected or anticipated jumping into this. So the results have definitely outperformed even my expectations. And I actually looked back before our podcast, back when we first did the pricing model, to say, where are you at? If you increase this, where are you going to end up? And we'll hit and exceed what I had projected when we were going through the process. So it's pretty exciting in terms of the results that we've achieved. And not only are we not, put it this way, we haven't lost any clients, and the ones that we're gaining have become, our biggest cheerleaders. And one of the things in terms of this too that we've done, back to this whole case study, which again, I think has been a real game changer for us in terms of just communicating the results and the value of what we provide. But we started creating annually now, as part of our value to our clients, a dashboard to them saying, here's where you started and here's been that value creation. So we're actually creating the case study as we work with them. So at the end of it, we're done and we've got the case study. They see the results year over year. So when it comes to them, either exiting the business or, transitioning internally to family members or management or whatever, we've got the case study already laid out that they've been seeing as we've been going along. So we kind of hand it to them and say, okay, now, can we create this case study right out of the results that you've not only seen, but experienced along the way. So that's something we just implemented this year. So it's kind of new to us in terms of providing that, but our clients, one, love seeing it. And two, it sure makes that renewal for the next year a whole lot easier because they know the results. So that's been an added thing that we've put in again just this year, but that's been huge. That's really been huge because now, even though we're charging higher fees, which is going to allow us again to increase fees again, we've been generating, and just as an example, we've been able to demonstrate, and how we demonstrated it multiple ways, but their investment to the return on their EBITDA growth year over year has been anywhere from 300% to almost 900%. So when they come into me and say, well, but that's a lot of money, I'm like, well, is it worth a 300% return to you?
Right. Now, does breaking down the case studies like that as you're doing that, does that actually help you guys see the real value you're creating for clients that you maybe didn't have visibility to before?
Absolutely. Because I think it's reinforcing even for us. Because as a practitioner as well, right, you get lost in kind of what you're doing. But as you're kind of looking back, which we're all kind of bad at doing, and looking at the results, when we do that with our clients, we're like, oh my God, we really did. We know we've accomplished a lot, but when you really put it, into a chart or into a graph and say, here's where we've really grown the business from here to here, and this is what their investment was in us to make that happen. And it gives us more confidence in obviously, selling what we're doing, but also asking a higher price. And for them, it's comfort going, yeah, this investment not only was worth it, but now they've become obviously our biggest cheerleaders and what we can do for others. And so when we have those opportunities, they're our referrals. And, we have clients call and, hey, this is what we experienced. And they're more than happy to share that, because it's not we think we accomplished this or we think we accomplished that. We've already laid it out for them, so they know what they've accolished. Yeah.
So this is totally next level. I love this. And we're going to share this interview with all of our clients so because that's a really great nugget for re-enrollment, because that's one of the biggest things that you need to be making sure that you're doing if you're selling a multiple year-long engagement where they have to be renewing. You went from projects and smaller one-off projects to, and that's a really big leap. I just want to acknowledge you for your courage in doing that, because that takes something. And you went and sold it. It's I'm so proud of you. But then you're actually demonstrating in, a slide deck, probably visually showing how you're actually delivering this impact. And what I'm recognizing here is that I hope everyone else is hearing is that you don't have to be great at sales to do this, because it's demonstrating. It demonstrates the results that you're already providing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest, because I've never considered myself, quote unquote, the salesperson. But when you believe in what you're doing and you can generate the results, selling is pretty darn easy to do, regardless of whether you think you're a salesperson or not. And I think that's a big part of it. And the confidence, when you're generating those results, the confidence to sell it again and again and again just becomes that much easier, because you know that what you're selling is, one, legitimate. You can generate the returns that you say you're going to generate and probably exceed that. And so the confidence level in selling it just elevates every time that you do it. And I think that's the biggest thing. In fact, we just had a meeting yesterday with a client that we had delivered an assessment, and the next step is entering into this longer term engagement. And they asked, they're like, well, this is a big cost. This is, a person essentially that, we'd be paying. And I said, if you consider us a cost, we're not the right person. If you consider us an investment in growing the value of your business to where you want to go based on everything that we've done in the assessment, then we're the right person. And, in terms of that, they're signing the agreement by Friday of this week. So it's just one of those of, I have the confidence, not because I'm a savvy salesperson, but because I know I can deliver the results, or we can deliver the results as a team. And that's a game changer for me.
Yeah. So that was that the biggest shift for you then?
Without question. It was the biggest shift of getting past that. The value that we bring is based on the time that I spend versus the value that we bring is really in the results they achieve.
Now, that's a bit of a scary shift for a lot of people. So what would you say to people who are
really scary,
who are working through that?
Trust the process is the biggest thing. And even myself going through it, I'm like, oh, I don't know. And I know you and I had conversations early on, even in the irresistible offer. And you're like, but you need to, narrow, you need to focus, you need to be clear. And I'm like, but we're different, and it was hard, and it was really hard. But I think it is one of those of one, you have to, and I think it's back to what you say early on is, you've got to have the results to show that you can do this. Jumping into this without having ever done it and then asking those prices would be very difficult for me to do. But I knew we had the results, but I never went back and actually quantified what we were doing. And when I started doing that actually was part of the exercise, I'll call it, to get me past that barrier. Because I'm looking at these numbers going, they're way underpaying me for what I'm delivering to them. But I never really looked at it that way. So it also gave me that confidence to say, we are providing multiples of value to them based on the investment they're making. And I'm not just charging them. I'm not just a cost on their financial statements. I am an investment that's generating a significant return. And so me going through that exercise and then being pushed to focus and narrow and be clear were really two of the biggest things, in my opinion, that allowed me to have that confidence and to get through that.
I love that. Then one of the things I wanted to call out a couple things here is that this works for you because you have great results. You have great results. Yeah. I think there's also something else to point out here too, is that for people who are listening who are a little bit shady about, not shady, they're a little bit unclear about what results they're getting, actually sitting down and understanding the results that they're already creating for clients. I mean, it's uncomfortable. You got to have those conversations sometimes.
Yep.
And you have to start moving from, hey, we're giving you this deliverable to, okay, what is this deliverable actually delivering? And I think for some professional services, they're afraid to do that because they're like deep down inside, they're afraid that they're not actually delivering the results they're hoping.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of a twofold thing, in my opinion, too, because I think once you go back and do that exercise on various clients, you may find they're not the right clients because this isn't a one-sided effort. It's a team effort. And then whether they're willing to invest to what it's going to take for them to get where they need to go, no different than you pushing me to get to those results. We push our clients in the same way. And if they're not willing to do that, I can't get the results independent of them. And so part of that exercise was twofold. It was who wasn't the right fit and who are we, quite honestly, undercharging for the value we're delivering. But when you start having those conversations, and if you've got the right clients, they see that and they're willing to pay for that. And I think that was a big part of it. But it's a big mental shift. So to say that I had no struggles with that would be lying. Because it was really tough to do that. I kept going back to, but yeah, can we really charge that much? Or even increasing the rates to go from where we were to, essentially tripling the rates and then some, almost quadrupling the rates. That's like, holy cow, how do I go from this to that and confidently present it and not feel like I'm a fake? Maybe that's the best way. I don't know how else you describe it, right? I was like, well, am I really worth it? And the reality of it is, we already had the results of what we were generating. We just needed to share it and be confident that everything that we've been doing to this point has generated the results. And the fact is, we just need to charge for that value. And we weren't.
Right. So now, do you mind sharing your outcome statement? What is your outcome statement for what you deliver for clients and for who?
Yeah. And I will tell you, it's probably not as big as what it should be. Because ours is doubling their profits in 2 years and our results are much greater than that.
Right. Yeah. So now maybe it's time for an upgrade.
Yeah, exactly. And it probably is as we continue, not only in terms of the outcomes that we're getting, but these longer term engagements in terms of what the results are. not only in that, and we have one example on a client, which has been super. I told him he's going to be my poster child for a case study of, we've been working with him for just over 18 months, and he's going to go to market to sell this coming year. And the value of his business went up 3 times. I'm not talking his net income. The value of his business went up 3 times, which to him equated to over $6 million. And so when I look at that in terms of kind of to your outcome statement of, we still didn't charge him enough and we were charging, right?
But how did this focus towards like, because you're moving from, hey, we're going to be delivering our time to we're going to be delivering this outcome. How did that focus actually drive bigger results for clients?
I think it was the biggest thing for us was we were able to really, I'll call it, drive our focus into the key things that were their key drivers for the business, as opposed to saying, well, we're going to, work on this one project and we're spending X amount of time. So we were always in this mindset of how much time are we spending and how are they receiving the bill? It really didn't come down to the time we spent. It was, can we get the outcomes that we said we were going to get for them? And so our focus became very different. It became very value driven in terms of how we were spending our time, as opposed to focusing on this hourly type mindset. So from a results standpoint, even on this one example of a client, it wasn't, hey, we're going to help do 1, 2, and 3, and it's going to take us X amount of hours to do it. We were telling them, here's where you're at. Here's the value we can increase it. And here's where we're going to focus to do that. And they weren't concerned about how much time we were spending. We could spend 2 hours. We could spend 20 hours. They didn't care as long as we could deliver that outcome. And so our mindset shifted too, in terms of how we were approaching our clients and creating that value. So now when we're doing things, I do think about how much time I spend, but I don't look at it from that perspective, because I know that the time that we're spending and the value we're creating are tenfold from what we were doing before. And it allows us to be much more flexible, because to that point, we're not having to spend as much time, but we are still generating equal or higher results for the time that we are spending on it.
So one of the things that we hear, a lot of like objections we hear about this is like, well, now I have to spend so much more time to be able to do that. Have you guys found that to be the case?
No, not at all. In fact, it's the opposite.
Really? Say more about that.
Because again, everything that we were doing before was, because it was on a billable rate, to get paid, we had to work on hours. So it was hours in terms of what we were doing, or we were doing analysis. Where now a lot of what we're doing is much more strategy focused. It's much more focused on how do we help them get where they want to go, and us not necessarily putting in the hours to do that, but spending more time, I'll call it on the prep, but not on the doing. Because again, we were probably more doing in a lot of respects, just in order to get the billable hours for the task, where now our time is spent much more on strategy and achieving results. So we maybe do more planning, but our face-to-face time with clients actually is less.
Wow. So then now a lot of times people can get, so the CEO especially is like, okay, well, you know what? I had this model that I was like, I could like streamline deliverables, right? And now we're going into this outcome base. Now it's going to take even more of my time. And like, now I can't delegate. Like, so how have you dealt with that as far as being able to scale yourself?
Repeat the question a little bit. I'm not sure I'm following the question.
So what I'm saying has this been able to help you be able to delegate out some of the work, because the clients are more focused on, yes, because clients were.
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, so we added on. So one of the things that I was doing, and part of my hurdle too, in terms of scalability, is I always said the Achilles heel to my clients is the same Achilles heel I have, is I can do everything, right? And I can do it all pretty well. Whether I should be doing it is a whole nother question. So what we've been able to do, and we've hired on, is people to do all of that background work. My time is spent on strategy with the client, higher level stuff. And then when there's tasks to be done per se, I'm able to delegate that out. So we've added lower level, but team members that are high cost people I don't have to add in, where before my mindset was I needed to add another me. I needed to add another consultant at a very high ticket price to do that, where now I don't need that. So my time can be focused on the face-to-face time with the client from the standpoint of strategy, setting the plan. And then when there's to-dos to be done, I've got a team now that's able to execute on those. So I've offloaded a lot of the tasks. So my time has freed up tremendously, and I'm focused on the value creation aspects for my clients, not on the tasks.
Okay, got it. So this has actually helped you be able to free up more of your time from that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, one of the things that is really inspiring here, and it sounds like you're still doing a lot of the sales yourself, right?
Sales. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So, once you have these case studies built out for the clients and you have these decks and you have this clear offer where this is the outcome, this is what we create for clients. This is how we do that for you. When you have all of that, do you think that that's going to be a lot easier for you to be able to train up a salesperson on that, having those pieces in place?
Absolutely. In fact, as part of our strategy planning this year, she's our office manager marketer, but she knows our business like inside and out. And she said, well, I can start selling. I can start getting out and selling. I don't need you to do all the selling. I know this business. I know what you're creating. She knows our clients. She now obviously has the case study. She has our irresistible. She has everything. She understands it all and she can talk it very well and is very passionate about it. So actually that's going to be a little bit of an experiment here as we go into 2025 of her stepping up and doing some of that. So yes, to answer your question, it's going to make it a lot easier.
So one of the reasons why I want to point this out is because a lot of CEOs are like, okay, I've got to get out of sales. They want to get out of the most uncomfortable thing that I just don't want to do anymore. And what you're demonstrating here is that it's like doing the uncomfortable work that have leveraged your price point, that has increased your client lifetime value, like 10 times increase your client lifetime value. You've you're like on track to like quadruple your profits, your net profits.
Yeah.
And doing all of these things and all of these pieces, they're putting in place the assets to be able to support a salesperson so that once you actually put in the salesperson, they don't have to be an amazing salesperson. They are just going to follow your process.
Exactly. And so creating that tool, creating that process has been a really big game changer. The other thing that we did do at the same time, coincidentally, as I had shared earlier, was we put in place a book. So one of the things in terms of what we do in the market from an exit planning, there's a lot of education that needs to happen for clients to understand, why do I do this? What's the planning? What does it look like? I don't want to, there's just so much around that. And so part of creating that book was the education. And coincidentally, we were able to obviously incorporate that, the hands-off and your hands-off CEO irresistible offer aspect of it into the book due to that timing. And so now from a sales standpoint, kind of building off of that, what we've been able to do is send that out. So we have a warm lead. They handle sending that out. We take, kind of key points. It educates them on who we are, what we do. There's case studies within that book that share our results. So a lot of the pre-sales work is being done by our book. And so then when they read it, in fact, we had one where she's like, I don't think I'm ready to do that. I said, well, let me just send you the book. You can learn a little bit more about it. She's like, I was kind of on vacation. I was sitting on the beach. I had your book along. I read it. She called me when she got back. She goes, I'm ready to start. So I didn't have to do really any selling. The book did the selling. So I think that's the other key piece for, at least for us in terms of the education, just because of what we are selling. It can be a long sales cycle to educate a business owner because they're so busy doing everything. It's different than what I was doing, right? You're so busy doing the day-to-day stuff that you don't have time to focus on what you should be focused on. And until they see the why behind it, it's really hard for them to say yes.
So then incorporating these pieces into the book.
Yeah.
I mean, when you first started the book, was it very much a how-to book?
A little bit of how-to, and I'll call it just kind of key areas of things that they need to be thinking about as it relates to, what is exit planning, even understanding it. So there was a lot of educational stuff. And then there were certain pieces in it, a little bit of the how-to, but really sharing case studies and also education. But when we incorporated the irresistible offer piece of it, we then really leaned into educating them on how long this process takes, right? And that it is, as we share with our clients, it's a marathon, not a sprint to get where you want to go. But in that marathon, there are results to be achieved and there's value to be created along the way. And understanding that it positions them well, not only today within their business, but obviously when they exit it. And that was a really hard concept to convey in a conversation, but is really easy to convey in stories of clients and examples of that and how they can look at different ways they can exit their business. So incorporating those aspects into the book has made it an unbelievable, honestly, tool for us to both educate and market our business without me spending hours on the phone talking to a potential prospect. Because by the time they read that book, they come back and go, I'm like, okay, any questions? Here's our model. where are you at kind of thing. I mean, it's a very, very brief conversation typically. At the most, they may say, hey, there were some case studies. I'd love to talk with some, referrals that went through that just to have a face-to-face or to have a conversation. Absolutely. We've got a bunch of those that are more than willing to be those referral sources for us. And so it's taken and streamlined our sales process immensely. In addition to obviously the irresistible offer, all the case studies that we've got on our website are on our website. So it's changed how we sell. It's changed how we educate. And with that, it's created a whole different model in terms of confidence of selling the value of what we provide. And so I don't hesitate anymore. And kind of when you say just even jumping up, or one of my internal people that's been with me for quite a while, she would get really nervous. She's like, oh my God, you're going to, charge, X amount for this on a monthly basis. And because she was in the mindset of hourly, right? And I'm like, yeah, but here's the results we're getting. And she's like, I know, but I'm really nervous about you asking for that amount. I'm like, you can be nervous. That's okay, but I'm still going to ask for it. And now I think has gotten past it. But again, it's building that confidence of, we can generate those results, and we know we can generate those results, and the payback to our clients, is way beyond the investment that they're making in us. And that success just fuels itself, quite honestly.
Yeah. No, I love that. And you are distributing this in a book, and a book is a fantastic way. It also takes a lot of time and energy, and
it did. Yes, it did.
And it's so worth writing a book after you've done the initial positioning, like after you've done that.
Yeah.
And we've also seen other companies be able to use like a shorter ebook. We've seen them be able to take the same information and deliver it live as a presentation, longer workshop. Like there's so many different ways that you can take the same content and distribute it. I think a book is really one of the best ways to do it. But there were a number of years before we had our book too. And I mean, the book is the best thing, because you read the book and they come ready pre-sold, right? It's
totally. Yeah.
It just makes it so much easier. And then on top of that, you really don't have to be the one in the sales conversation if they have read your book and you have the case studies to back it up. So it's really incredible what you've been able to do and how you've just implemented it. One of the things I really want to acknowledge you for, Jayne, is that you have the maturity of knowing to stay focused.
Yeah.
Instead of going after all these shiny objects, and you're very intentional and very deliberate, and your team, they're kind of scared about it. You're saying we're doing it anyway, and you're leading the way. So you're actually leading the change in your company, and that's what it really takes is to go and do the things other people are not willing to do, like stay focused, like think bigger, like go after the results and actually prove the results to your clients, as opposed to just saying, we'll do all this work, fingers crossed, I hope it works out. I know you weren't doing that before, but I'm just saying.
But in reality, even though I wasn't saying it, you were kind of doing it, right? Even though you weren't verbalizing it, because you really couldn't quantify it at the time. And so, like I said, both in terms of the cases, but like I said, what we're doing now with the dashboards, I mean, it is putting in front of them and in front of us, one, are we doing our job? So it is, to your point, a scary thing, but are you doing your job? But then secondly, reinforcing to our clients that you made the right choice and you invested in the right things. And it makes, again, those renewals year over year pretty darn easy, because they're seeing that the investment is generating way more than what they're.
So what I'm hearing is that you've just learned how to be able to position what you do in your business in a way that it really sells itself, in a way that it stands alone.
Yeah.
And I'm also hearing that this focus towards the results has really changed your operations to be so driven by the results, and at the same time removing you out of the day-to-day and a lot of the pieces.
Absolutely. And I know you shared this too, in terms of, and I do it with our clients too. I always said it's hard to take your own advice, but I was gone for a couple of weeks out of the country in October with my husband, and did not check back. And actually, when I got back, one of our clients that we had proposed on beforehand wasn't sure they wanted to move forward. And my office staff closed the deal before I ever got back. And so it's just, to your point, it's creating that where the team is able to not only sell it, but do the work. And by giving them the tools to be able to do that and create a process and simplify, I'll call it the message, it's made it a whole lot easier for me to, I'll call it train, but also for them to feel confident that they
love it. Love it. Yeah. I love what you just said there, that you're giving them the confidence that they can do it. And that's a big reason why that they're paying for you. for the
Yeah.
transformation. Like your team gives them that hope and that confidence in the transformation.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they're, like I said, our team is quite honest. They don't realize it, but they're the best salespeople because they believe in what we're doing and the results that we're generating. And so it's not even a sales effort for them, even though they think they're selling. In reality, they're not selling. And it's just the passion around what we've been able to accomplish. So it's really, again, it becomes self-generating in terms of this once it's established. And yeah, I'm excited about where we can go next year and beyond in terms of continuing to grow the business and just the results that we're getting. It's obviously a pretty frothy market in terms of business exits and what's going to be happening down the road still with, baby boomers, even though they're getting older. There's a lot of transitions happening. And even now the Generation X coming up is looking to do the same. And so there's a lot of opportunity in this space. And I think the differentiator for us is it has been very outcome and results oriented versus, hey, pay us for this or pay us for that. And I don't really know others, in our space doing it the way we're doing it. So it's, and it's working fabulously. And it's quite honestly a lot more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like a blast. So, Jayne, where can people learn more about Journey Consulting?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely go to our website at journeyconsult.com. You can also get our book, The Value Journey, on Amazon. It's The Value Journey, How to Drive Profits, Build Wealth, and Exit Your Business on Your Own Terms. You can get the link to this on our website as well. But you can learn a little bit more about us, what we do, our results that we've achieved for our clients. And also on there too, you can have access and email me directly from that website as well if you want to learn more. Yeah, happy to talk with anyone that wants to learn more, whether it be about our process and what we're doing or just our experience with Hands Off CEO.
Well, thanks, Jayne, for so generously sharing these great links and your knowledge and your experience here, because your courage. This took something. It took courage for you to be able to create these kind of results and the kind of growth that you're seeing in your company and how that's removed you from the day-to-day, but at the same time generating better results from your clients. It's very exciting.
Yeah, no. Well, and thank you, Mandi. I wouldn't have gotten here without you challenging me and telling me, no, you can make this a little bit clearer, you can do better. And so, yeah, we're very happy with what our experience was working with Hands Off CEO. And obviously the results speak for themselves in terms of what we've been able to do with the business and for our clients.
Great. Well, thanks so much again, Jayne, for coming on the podcast and sharing your expertise. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in to this episode of the Hands Off CEO podcast. If you'd like to learn more about this process and see how it might fit for your company, you can go to handsoffceo.com/book, and you can purchase a copy of our book for $4.99 as the audio version there as well. And you can get some great goodies on there, handsoffceo.com/book. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for tuning in.